January 2026 is not just another month on the calendar. It is not a random turning of pages or a routine step forward in time. There are moments in history when heaven places a marker, when time itself becomes a doorway. January 2026 is one of those moments. In Scripture, God often begins His greatest works at the beginning of a season. Creation itself began with a word spoken into emptiness. Israel's deliverance began at the start of a new month. Jesus began His ministry at an appointed time. God is a God of beginnings, and January is the month of beginnings. What begins in January often determines what follows for the rest of the year, and sometimes for the rest of a life. But this is not about motivation. This is not about positive thinking. This is about alignment. There are patterns woven into time. Ancient patterns, biblical patterns. When people align themselves with God's timing, His order, and His ways, acceleration follows. When they don't, delay comes. January 2026 carries a convergence, a meeting point between preparation and opportunity. Many will enter it unaware, distracted, unchanged, and they will pass through it without ever touching what was made available to them. But some will see it, some will recognize it, some will position themselves before it arrives. In the Bible, success was never accidental. Joshua did not prosper by chance. Joseph did not rise overnight without preparation. Esther did not step into her moment without consecration. Before promotion, there was separation. Before elevation, there was alignment. Before success, there was obedience. January 2026 will reward alignment. There are doors that only open once. There are moments that cannot be repeated. Scripture warns that when God passes by, some miss Him because they are looking elsewhere. Opportunity does not always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as discipline, obedience, or sacrifice. What makes January 2026 different is this: it is not only a beginning, it is a response. A response to what you do before it arrives. In ancient times, God instructed His people to prepare before the appointed time. Noah built before the rain. Joseph stored before the famine. The wise virgins filled their lamps before the bridegroom came. Those who prepared stepped into abundance. Those who delayed were shut out, not because the door was cruel, but because timing is holy. Success, in biblical terms, is not wealth alone. It is fulfillment. It is momentum. It is divine backing. It is when effort meets grace. January 2026 carries the potential for that convergence. But here is the warning: the same month that brings breakthrough to some will expose others. Light does that. When God accelerates time, whatever is misaligned begins to shake. What has been tolerated can no longer remain. What has been delayed must be confronted. What has been hidden will be revealed, not to destroy, but to realign. This is why preparation matters. January 2026 will not respond to excuses. It will not wait for comfort. It will not bend to fear. It will respond to obedience, clarity, and faith in action. In Scripture, when God was about to elevate someone, He first refined their focus. Gideon's army was reduced before victory. Elijah confronted compromise before fire fell. Jesus fasted before power was released. Reduction often precedes expansion. Focus precedes fruitfulness. Ask yourself, what must be removed before January arrives? What distractions must end? What habits must change? What obedience has been delayed? Because when the month comes, it will move quickly. The Bible speaks of suddenly. Suddenly Joseph was summoned. Suddenly the walls fell. Suddenly the Spirit moved. Sudden moments only appear sudden to those who did not see the preparation behind them. For those who prepared, they were the fulfillment of a process. January 2026 has the potential to be a suddenly month. but only for those who treat time as sacred. There is also this truth. Success is attracted to stewardship. God does not pour increase where order is absent. He does not release expansion where discipline is ignored. January 2026 will amplify what already exists. If there is vision, it will grow. If there is confusion, it will multiply. If there is faith, it will accelerate. If there is fear, it will surface. This is not meant to frighten, it is meant to awaken. Because the most successful month of your life does not begin with circumstances changing. It begins with alignment shifting. Heaven responds when earth aligns, when priorities realign, when focus sharpens, when obedience becomes immediate. Doors begin to open that no human hand could open. In Scripture, God often marked time with instructions. Prepare yourselves. Consecrate yourselves. Set yourselves apart. These were not religious rituals. They were positioning strategies. They placed people where God's power could reach them. January 2026 is not about hype. It is about positioning. If you enter it prepared, it will feel like acceleration. If you enter it unprepared, it will feel overwhelming. The difference will not be the month. The difference will be you. There is still time. Time to refocus, time to realign, time to simplify, time to obey what you already know to do, time to stop delaying what has been clear, because when January 2026 arrives, it will not ask if you are ready. It will simply arrive. And those who are aligned will look back and say, that was the month everything shifted. January 2026 is not simply another month waiting to arrive. It is a marked moment in time. Throughout Scripture, God does not treat time as random. He appoints moments, sets seasons, and establishes beginnings that carry greater weight than others. When God chooses to move, He often does so at the start of a cycle, because beginnings shape outcomes. January, by its very nature, is a threshold. It stands between what was and what will be. And January 2026 carries a significance that goes beyond routine transition. In the Bible, the first month was often the month of divine action. Israel's redemption from Egypt began at the start of a new month, which God declared would forever be remembered as the beginning of months. That moment was not just a calendar change, it was a spiritual reset. Slavery ended, identity was restored, and a nation was formed. God has always used beginnings to rewrite stories. When He marks a beginning, it is because something old must end and something new must be established. January 2026 functions in that same way. It is a doorway month. A doorway does not force anyone to walk through it, but it does offer passage. Many people pass doorways every day without ever stepping into what lies beyond them. The door is open, yet unused. In the same way, this month will present opportunity, momentum, and potential that will only be accessed by those who recognize its importance. What makes a month successful is not what happens around you, but what aligns within you. God's greatest works in Scripture were released when people aligned themselves with His timing. Noah aligned with God's warning before the flood came. Joseph aligned with discipline and faithfulness long before promotion arrived. Joshua aligned with obedience before crossing into promise. The calendar alone did not bless them, alignment did. January 2026 is a divinely marked beginning because it demands response. Beginnings in Scripture are invitations to change direction, posture, and priority. When God creates a beginning, He is offering a reset, but resets require letting go of what no longer belongs. Old patterns cannot move into new seasons without causing conflict. This is why new beginnings often feel uncomfortable at first. They confront familiarity. The danger is treating sacred moments as ordinary. Scripture records times When people missed divine visitation simply because they were distracted or unchanged. Opportunity passed by quietly, unnoticed, because hearts were not prepared. January 2026 will not announce itself with noise or spectacle. It will look like a normal month to those who are not paying attention. But beneath the surface, it carries acceleration. God often hides his greatest moves within simplicity. A shepherd boy was chosen while others were overlooked. A manger held a king. A stone defeated a giant. A single month can hold a turning point if God has marked it. January 2026 is not powerful because events, trends, or circumstances. It is powerful because it stands at the intersection of preparation and promise. Those who enter it unchanged will experience it like any other month. But those who approach it with awareness will sense the shift. They will recognize that time itself is inviting them to step forward, to act, to obey, and to move. When beginnings are ignored, cycles repeat. When beginnings are honored, trajectories change. Success flows from honoring what God marks. When God marks a moment, he expects stewardship. January 2026 is a beginning that must be stewarded. What you choose to focus on, remove, and pursue as it approaches will determine what it releases when it arrives. A marked beginning does not guarantee success. It offers the chance for it. This is why January 2026 matters. It is not hype. It is not coincidence. It is a moment waiting for recognition. And for those who see it as more than just another month, it can become the beginning that changes everything. Success has never been a matter of chance in the ways of God. In Scripture, nothing truly significant happens by accident. Breakthroughs are not random. Promotion is not luck. And lasting fruit is not the result of good timing alone. When God brings success into a person's life, it flows from alignment. Alignment with his will, his order, and his timing. When alignment is present, momentum follows. When it is absent, even effort produces little results. Many people believe success comes from striving harder, working longer, or pushing beyond limits. While effort has its place, the Bible consistently shows that alignment outweighs effort. Joshua did not conquer Jericho by military strength, but by obedience to a strange instruction. Peter did not experience the miraculous catch by fishing all night, but by aligning his actions with a single word. The shift came not from more labor, but from right positioning. January 2026 will not reward activity alone. It will respond to alignment. Those who enter it busy but misaligned will feel frustrated, while those who enter it aligned will experience unusual progress. This is because alignment places a person where God's power can flow without resistance. When a door and a key are aligned, the door opens effortlessly. When they are not, force only causes damage. Alignment begins internally before it manifests externally. In Scripture, God always dealt with the heart before changing circumstances. David was aligned in private before being elevated publicly. Esther aligned herself with purpose before stepping into her moment. Alignment is about priorities. What matters most, what governs decisions, what shapes direction. January 2026 will magnify whatever alignment already exists. This is why alignment cannot be postponed. Delay does not cancel opportunity, but it often weakens it. When people ignore alignment, they often blame circumstances for stagnation. But in many cases, heaven is waiting for order on earth. God does not pour increase into disorder. He does not accelerate confusion. Alignment invites divine partnership. Biblical success is different from worldly success. The world defines success by visibility, recognition, and accumulation. Scripture defines it by fruitfulness, endurance, and purpose. Alignment produces success that lasts because it is rooted in obedience rather than ambition. When ambition leads, burnout follows. When alignment leads, strength is renewed. January 2026 will expose the difference between movement and progress. Many move but never advance because they are moving in the wrong direction. Alignment corrects direction. It brings clarity. It simplifies focus. When alignment occurs, unnecessary battles end. Wasted energy is reclaimed. And clarity replaces confusion. In Scripture, whenever God was about to release increase, He first brought order. Creation began with separation. Light was divided from darkness. Land was separated from war. Order preceded abundance. The same principle applies now. January 2026 will favor those who have allowed God to reorder their priorities, habits, and focus. Alignment also requires humility. Pride resists correction, but alignment welcomes it. Those who refuse to adjust often remain stuck in cycles of frustration. Those who are willing to realign step into new levels of effectiveness. Correction is not punishment, it is guidance. It keeps a person on course. There's also an urgency attached to alignment. When time accelerates, misalignment becomes more costly. Small compromises begin to create larger consequences. What could once be ignored now demands attention. January 2026 will feel intense for some, not because it is harsh, but because it is precise. Precision reveals error quickly. Success flows naturally when alignment is present. Doors open with less resistance. Opportunities appear unexpectedly. Favor replaces friction. This is not coincidence. It is the result of being positioned correctly. January 2026 will not change everyone's life, but for those who choose alignment over convenience, obedience over comfort, and clarity over chaos, it can become a month of unusual success. Not because they forced it to happen, but because they were finally in the right place at the right time, aligned with what heaven was already ready to release. Preparation has always been the dividing line between those who step into opportunity and those who watch it pass by. In Scripture, God never releases a major moment without first calling for preparation. Preparation is not optional. It is the evidence that a person believes what God has spoken. When people prepare, they reveal faith. When they refuse, they reveal doubt. January 2026 will follow this same pattern. It will not respond to intention alone, but to preparation already in motion. Every major biblical breakthrough was preceded by unseen work. Noah prepared long before the rain appeared. His obedience looked foolish to those around him. Yet when the moment arrived, preparation became salvation. Joseph prepared in obscurity, managing prisons with excellence as if they were palaces. When opportunity came, his readiness turned a single moment into lifelong promotion. Preparation transforms moments into movements. Many people wait for opportunity before they prepare. Scripture shows the opposite order. God prepares people before He releases opportunity. January 2026 will not pause to wait for readiness. It will arrive carrying momentum. And only those already positioned will be able to move with it. This is why preparation cannot be rushed at the last moment. Readiness is built over time through discipline, consistency, and obedience in small things. Preparation often looks unimpressive. It does not attract applause. It happens in silence, routine, and repetition. In the Bible, preparation often involves separation. Moses was separated in the wilderness. Elijah was separated by the brook. Jesus was separated in the desert. These seasons were not delays. They were shaping processes. What was built in hidden places sustained them in public moments. January 2026 will favor those who have embraced preparation even when no immediate reward was visible. While others were distracted, some were refining their focus. While others delayed obedience, some were building discipline. While others waited for clarity, some were faithful with what they already understood. Preparation is rarely glamorous, but it is always powerful. Danger is assuming that good intentions equal readiness. Scripture never equates desire with preparation. The foolish virgins desired the bridegroom, but failed to prepare oil. When the moment arrived, desire could not replace discipline. Preparation is what keeps opportunity from becoming regret. January 2026 will not be cruel, but it will be honest. It will reveal who prepared and who postponed. Preparation also requires foresight. In Scripture, God often warned his people ahead of time so they could prepare. Joseph interpreted the dream not to impress Pharaoh, but to protect a nation. Wisdom prepared for what others ignored. Those who prepare do not fear the future because they are already building for it. There's also a cost to preparation. It requires saying no to distractions. It demands consistency when quitting would be easier. It often involves obedience without immediate confirmation. But the cost of preparation is always less than the cost of regret. Those who prepare pay in advance so they do not pay later. January 2026 will reward prepared minds, prepared hearts, and prepared lives. It will not create readiness. It will reveal it. Acceleration does not produce growth, it exposes foundation. If the foundation is strong, speed brings expansion. If it is weak, speed brings collapse. This is why preparation matters so deeply. In Scripture, preparation was often the last instruction before breakthrough. Prepare yourselves, consecrate yourselves, get ready. These were not suggestions, they were requirements. God moves suddenly, but sudden moves are entered through prepared lives. As January 2026 approaches, preparation becomes a choice. It is choosing discipline over distraction, faithfulness over comfort, consistency over convenience. Those who prepare will find that when the moment arrives, it feels familiar, not overwhelming. Opportunity will not surprise them. It will recognize them. Preparation does not guarantee ease, but it guarantees readiness. And in a month where momentum increases and doors open quickly, readiness will be the difference between stepping forward and being left behind. When God brings light, it never only comforts, it also reveals. Light exposes what was hidden, not to shame, but to restore order. In Scripture, moments of divine movement were always accompanied by exposure and refinement. When God was about to elevate his people, he first confronted what could not go with them. January 2026 will function in this same way. It will not only open doors, it will expose what is misaligned so that correction can take place. Exposure is not rejection. Refinement is not punishment. These processes are signs that God is actively working. When gold is refined, impurities rise to the surface, not because the gold is worthless, but because it is valuable. In the same way, January 2026 will bring clarity. Patterns that were tolerated will become uncomfortable. Distractions that once seemed harmless will begin to feel heavy. This discomfort is not accidental, it is directional. In Scripture, God often exposed misalignment before breakthrough. Before Israel entered the promised land, they had to confront unbelief, rebellion, and fear. Before fire fell on Mount Carmel, Elijah confronted compromise. Before restoration came to Jerusalem, Nehemiah confronted disorder in the walls. Exposure always preceded advancement. January 2026 will highlight areas that need adjustment. For some, it will be habits that drain momentum. For others, it will be relationships that hinder growth. For others, it will be mindsets that no longer fit the next season. This exposure is not meant to discourage, it is meant to reposition. Correction at the right time prevents destruction later. The danger is resisting exposure. In Scripture, those who resisted correction often miss the fullness of what God intended. Pride closes ears. Humility opens doors. Those who allow refinement experience growth. Those who reject it experience stagnation. January 2026 will respond differently depending on posture. A resistant heart will feel pressure. A receptive heart will experience freedom. Refinement also brings clarity. When God removes what is unnecessary, what remains becomes clearer. Gideon's army was reduced not to weaken him, but to clarify the source of victory. When distractions are stripped away, focus sharpens. January 2026 will simplify many lives, not by accident, but by design. What is essential will stand out. What is unnecessary will fade. Exposure can feel uncomfortable because it interrupts routine. But routine is often the enemy of transformation. In Scripture, transformation almost always began with disruption. Comfort zones were challenged. Familiar paths were questioned. Old methods were replaced. January 2026 will disrupt complacency, not to unsettle, but to awaken. There's also grace in exposure. God reveals what needs change while there is still time to change it. Correction before consequence is mercy. When people ignore gentle correction, harsher consequences often follow. January 2026 offers clarity early so that progress can follow later. Those who respond quickly will find the process lighter than expected. Refinement prepares people for increase. God does not place weight on structures that cannot support it. When expansion is coming, strengthening must come first. January 2026 will strengthen foundations by exposing weaknesses. This is not delay, it is preparation for sustainability. In Scripture, those who embraced refinement experienced lasting impact. David accepted correction and remained usable. Peter was confronted and restored. The early church adjusted and multiplied. Correction did not disqualify them, it preserved them. January 2026 holds the same potential. Those who allow exposure will find themselves lighter, clearer, and more focused. Momentum will return where resistance ends. Peace will replace confusion where alignment is restored. What once felt stuck will begin to move. January 2026 will not destroy what God intends to use. It will refine it. It will not shame. It will strengthen. And for those willing to let go of what no longer fits, it will become a turning point, not just of opportunity, but of lasting transformation. Before God brings visible acceleration, He almost always brings invisible focus. In Scripture, expansion never comes without first narrowing attention. This is because power flows best through clarity. When focus is scattered, strength is diluted. When focus is refined, momentum is released. January 2026 will follow this divine pattern. It will not reward divided attention, but it will strongly favor those who have learned to focus and obey without hesitation. Obedience is often misunderstood as restriction, but in the ways of God, obedience is alignment in action. It is the moment when belief becomes movement. Many people admire faith, but obedience is what activates it. In Scripture, miracles did not occur when instructions were merely heard, but when they were followed. The walls of Jericho did not fall because the plan was understood, but because it was obeyed. Focus removes noise. It clarifies what truly matters. In the Bible, God often reduced options before releasing power. Gideon's army was reduced so victory could be unmistakable. Elijah stood alone to confront compromise. Jesus withdrew from crowds to pray before demonstrating authority. Reduction was not loss, it was preparation. January 2026 will demand this kind of focus. Distractions that once seemed manageable will suddenly feel costly. Divided priorities will begin to slow progress. This is not pressure from outside. It is an internal call to simplify. When God is about to accelerate a season, He often narrows the path. The narrower the focus, the greater the impact. Obedience also requires immediacy. Delayed obedience is often disguised as wisdom, but Scripture shows that delay frequently leads to missed opportunity. Moved when called. Peter stepped out when instructed. Those who hesitated often lost momentum. January 2026 will not respond well to hesitation. It will move quickly. And those who respond decisively will find themselves ahead without struggling. Focus and obedience work together. Focus clarifies direction. Obedience supplies movement. Without focus, obedience becomes inconsistent. Without obedience, focus becomes theory. January 2026 will reward those who have unified these two. Clear direction followed by immediate action will produce unusual results. In Scripture, obedience often preceded understanding. Noah did not fully understand the flood when he built the ark. Peter did not understand the net-breaking catch when he obeyed. Understanding often follows obedience, not the other way around. January 2026 will test trust. Some instructions will seem simple, even insignificant. But obedience in small things often unlocks larger doors. There is also a cost to focus. It means saying no to good things in order to say yes to the right thing. It means letting go of options to gain clarity. Many resist focus because it feels limiting, but limitation in God's hands produces power. A river is strong because it is confined. A scattered stream loses force. January 2026 will amplify outcomes. Those who are focused will see results quickly. Those who are distracted will feel overwhelmed. The difference will not be effort, but clarity. Focus brings peace even in acceleration. Distraction brings anxiety even in abundance. Obedience protects momentum. When people obey, they stay aligned. When they rationalize, they drift. Drift is subtle, but over time it leads far from purpose. January 2026 will not allow much room for drift. Course correction will be necessary, but those who respond quickly will find the journey smoother. In Scripture, those who obeyed promptly often experience divine backing. Favor replaced friction. Resistance diminished. Doors opened that effort alone could not open. This was not coincidence. It was alignment producing acceleration. January 2026 is positioned to be a month where focus sharpens and obedience accelerates outcomes. Those who simplify, listen, and act will move forward with surprising speed. Those who delay or divide attention will struggle to keep pace. Acceleration does not come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters most with obedience and clarity. And in a season where time moves quickly, focus and obedience will not just precede success, they will protect it. Time is one of the most sacred gifts entrusted to humanity, yet it is often treated as common. Scripture consistently presents time not as something to be spent carelessly, but as something to be redeemed, stewarded, and honored. When God moves in time, He does so with precision. Moments come that cannot be recovered once they pass. January 2026 will be such a moment. It will not slow down and it will not repeat itself. What is missed in sacred time is rarely regained in ordinary time. The Bible speaks clearly about appointed times. There were moments when God passed through history in a specific way, and those who were ready stepped into blessing, while those who were unprepared were left wondering what happened. Esau traded a birthright for a moment of appetite. Saul lost a kingdom because he mishandled a moment of obedience. Jerusalem missed its visitation because it did not recognize the time of divine opportunity. These were not small mistakes, they were failures to honor time. January 2026 will move with speed. It will feel accelerated because momentum will be present. When God accelerates a season, decisions carry greater weight. Small choices produce larger consequences. What could once be corrected later now demands immediate response. This is why treating time as sacred matters. Sacred time requires attentiveness. It requires discernment. It requires action without delay. Many people believe there will always be another chance, another season, another moment. Scripture does not support that assumption. While God is merciful, moments are not endless. Doors open and close. Windows appear and disappear. Harvests ripen and spoil if not gathered. January 2026 will carry opportunities that belong specifically to that season. They will not wait for convenience. Those who honor time live with intentionality. They do not drift through days hoping things improve. They recognize that direction matters more than speed. When time is honored, priorities are clarified, energy is focused, distractions lose power. This is why Scripture urges wisdom, because wisdom understands the value of time. January 2026 will expose how time has been treated. For some, it will reveal years of delay, distraction, and postponement. For others, it will reveal faithfulness in small, unseen disciplines. This exposure is not meant to condemn. It is meant to awaken urgency. Urgency is not panic. It is awareness that what is happening matters now. When time is treated as sacred, procrastination loses its grip. Delayed obedience is recognized for what it is, disobedience in disguise. Scripture never celebrates hesitation. Those who moved when called experience momentum. Those who waited often missed alignment. January 2026 will not accommodate endless deliberation. It will reward decisiveness. There is also responsibility attached to sacred time. When God gives a moment, He expects stewardship. Opportunities are entrusted, not guaranteed. In Scripture, servants were held accountable for what they did with what they were given. Time works the same way. January 2026 will ask a question, not with words, but with outcomes. What did you do with the moment you were given? Those who honor time prepare before urgency arrives. They do not wait until pressure forces action. They move early, adjust quickly, and stay alert. Because when time accelerates, preparation becomes protection. Those who are prepared move with confidence, while those who are not feel overwhelmed. January 2026 will not be forgiving of neglect, but it will be generous to faithfulness. Those who have learned to value time will find that time begins to work for them rather than against them. Momentum will feel natural. Progress will feel steady. Peace will remain even as speed increases. This is not about fear of missing out. It is about reverence for what God appoints. When time is treated as holy, life becomes purposeful. Each decision carries meaning. Each day becomes intentional. January 2026 will be a month that rewards those who live this way. Once it passes, it will not return. What is done in it will echo forward. Those who honored the moment will carry its fruit into the future. Those who ignored it will remember it as a month of missed signals. Time cannot be stored, paused, or reclaimed. It can only be stewarded. January 2026 will arrive. Move quickly and leave behind evidence of how it was treated. And those who honored it as sacred will discover that they did not just experience a successful month, they stepped into lasting momentum that continued long after the calendar turned.